We've had the opportunity to go on about 100 international training trips to almost 40 countries. And there have been some pretty amazing experiences. And as you can imagine, we've made a good number of mistakes along the way. And we hope that you'll be able to learn from our mistakes as you travel and serve in the name of Jesus. It was the end of several weeks of training, and we were spending our last night in Mongolia. Our host was a very sweet older missionary who wanted to treat us to dinner at her favorite restaurant in her small town. We were warmly greeted at the restaurant, and we could tell that she was well known and she was respected. She had been living and serving there for many years. After a nice dinner and some great conversation, it was time to pay the bill and leave. As we walked to the counter to pay for the meal, I told her that we intended to pay as a way to thank her for her kindness and her help during the trainings. She looked around the restaurant briefly and insisted on paying the bill herself. I insisted right back. We are not going to let you pay for this. You've done so much already. She wouldn't give in. Please, let me pay for this. I was not going to give in either. I was going to pay for that meal and bless that woman whether she liked it or not. That isn't exactly how I felt, but that's how I was acting. Needless to say, the American won. I paid the bill and went away feeling like I had done a noble thing. We saved her a good bit of money that she could use for herself or for the ministry. But what I didn't see at that moment was that her community in that restaurant was watching to see how she treated foreign guests. It looked to them that she made us pay for our own food, and that certainly was not part of the cultural expectation. She was being a bad host, and that was a reflection on them as well. In fact, we'd embarrassed her. I could have easily let her pay and then later, in private, given her the money as a gift to help with the ministry. But I was too focused on being the provider, the one who was doing the blessing. I was being the big man on campus. In the process, I made her feel small. I didn't show any care for her or for her reputation, but I was only concerned for my own reputation. An important thing to learn as you travel is being all right, being okay with being the guest, and sometimes even being the guest of honor. Don't expect it or insist on it, but when that recognition comes, be gracious and allow others to do what is expected in their cultural setting. Almost every time I visit a home or a church service, I am escorted to a specific place to sit, and usually it's in a better seat or the place of honor. It's awkward. I want to refuse and just stay in the back, unnoticed. But sitting in the back is not unnoticed. The whole room can see how your host is treating you. And that's embarrassing for the whole community. Jesus reminded his disciples to take the lower seat at those kinds of events. And that ought to be our expectation, to humbly sit in the back. But Jesus also reminded them that the host may very well come along and bring you to a place of honor. It's interesting that he never told them to reject the invitation to move to a better place. But his point was not to assume it would happen, not to expect special treatment, or certainly not to insist on it. Be gracious and allow your host to care for you. In fact, your host might be remembering Jesus' words, if you do it for the least of them, then you're doing it for me. Maybe they're putting you in the category of the least. In Matthew 6, 1 through 4, Jesus said, "Be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others to be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. So when you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets as the hypocrites do in the synagogue and on the streets, to be honored by others. I tell you the truth. They have received their reward in full. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you." This verse reminds us that there are probably lots of ways to practice righteousness just to be seen by others. We don't have to sound trumpets to be recognized by other people or get them to notice our generosity and our goodness. When we act that way, Jesus said, that's all the reward or recognition we're going to get. He will have nothing else for us. Give and do good privately, and God will see it and reward it. Think about this. Share about a time when you blessed someone and you did it anonymously or very privately. How did you feel? And how did the other person respond? What are some of the challenges with doing good privately when others don't see you doing the right thing? We hope that you'll keep on learning from our mistakes and keep on traveling, taking the good news with you wherever you go.